My name is Merin Anil. I am an art conservator working with Art and Material Heritage Division of INTACH, New Delhi. Today I will be talking about the restoration and conservation of a lacquer object which came into our lab in 2014. I would like to start with an introduction to the object. The object is owned by a private collector, and during transportation there was a mishap with the object and it was broken into pieces. Hence, this object came to our lab for restoration. This image only shows few of the pieces from the object. However, when all of the pieces are put together, it is intended to look like an image of the reclining Buddha. Before we continue with the actual treatment process, I would like to discuss about the iconography of the reclining Buddha image, which would help us in understanding the object better. It is an image representing Buddha lying down during his last hours. He is lying on the right side with his head resting on his right elbow, supporting his head with his hand. This image is also called as the Parinirvana Buddha, representing a transitional state, occurs to those who have reached enlightenment or nirvana during their lifetime. Another important aspect to understand the object, which helped us directly in the restoration plan, was knowing the material used to make this image. The technique for making this image closely resembles to the hollow dry lacquer technique. It is a statue making technique for lacquer sculpture, which emerged in Japan. In this technique, clay is used to construct a rough inner core model of the statue. This clay model is then wrapped in several layers of lacquer soaked cloth, with each layer allowed to dry and harden before adding the next layer. Once hardened, the clay core is removed by scraping or by cutting the statue into segments and reassembling it, resulting in a hollow and lightweight statue. The lightweight was preferred as it would have been easier to transport them, unlike metal or wooden objects. At times, a wooden frame was often placed inside the hollow statue to prevent warping. Surface details were typically added using a paste made by mixing lacquer with flour and wood powder. Gradually, the contents of the paste changed into stone powder and so on. Through this presentation, I will mainly focus on the condition before restoration of the object, the challenges faced during the treatment, and solution for some of the problems encountered during treatments. This object was documented and was mechanically cleaned with a soft brush. Let's move on to the object. Let's start with the head portion. The head portion was the area which was badly damaged. Around 40 to 50 small and big fragments were formed due to the damage the head portion experienced. As you can see in the image, on the lower right side, the right hand, as mentioned in the iconography slide, is still attached to the head. For treatment, all the small pieces were glued together with a suitable adhesive. However, when a fragment is comparatively of a large size, it has a considerable amount of weight to it and can fall apart if only fixed together with an adhesive. Hence, it needs an additional support to ease the tension through the joining fragments. Therefore, pressure sensitive tapes were given to support the fragment after addition of the adhesive. The face was broken into three pieces. The left side of the face and left ear had separated into two separate fragments. Hence, the same method was used to fix the fragments together as the head was. First, fixing the small pieces together and then joining it to a bigger or large cluster of fragments. However, large fragments cannot only be supported by pressure sensitive tapes, as it takes time for the adhesive to dry in between the joining area. Forces of gravity also play against them in retaining the shape. Hence, to maintain the position of the fragments where it is intended to be, an additional support was given from the inner portion of the statue, the content of which was a binder with wood powder, clay and pigment, keeping true to the nature of the technique. This plaster was only given in the areas with the joinings and areas with huge losses. As you can see, most of the head and face portion has been successfully joined. However, you can see a big loss on the forehead. This area was later filled in with the plaster. There were few fragments from this area which was found, and it didn't have any adjacent piece to stick onto it. Hence, the plaster acted as a support. This is the back side of the head. When a portion of the object is flat, it is much easier to join as force of gravity is not acting upon it. But when it is a circular shape like the head and hollow, there is nothing to support the newly added fragments. Either the entire joining pieces should be tightly holding each other, or an additional support should be added like a thread to help them retain its shape, as in this case. Once almost all the major fragments were assembled, it was time to move on to the body of the object. As you can see in this image, only the neck and part of the right arm was left as a single entity. However, a huge fragment of the chest was found and was fixed to the neck, followed by the other portion of the torso and the lower portion of the body. The left feet was detached. Unlike the other pieces on the object, the feet had a more coarse and dense filling, meaning that it won't be able to suffice only with an adhesive. Hence, a stainless steel dowel was inserted which could pin this detached feet to the leg. There were some loose fragments and it was quite difficult to figure out where it belonged. But once the entire piece was joined together, the loose fragment started to make sense and hence were placed in the right areas. All the areas with losses were filled in with the plaster and was retouched to match the surrounding area. The torso, the leg portion, the front side of the object after restoration, the back side of the object after restoration. Thank you for your attention.